We're just going to record it and I can edit it later. Hello, Ellen. Okay. So this is for your
romantic
class. Okay. So can you explain the assignment to me so I just know what it's about?
It's Heidi. So the assignment is write a paper.
That's all it is? That's all
Yes.
it gives you? Not about any specific thing ever
About one of the poems.
that you've been talking about recently?
No.
Okay.
Basically, it's a close reading of the poem. So you
choose a poem.
You choose a poem that you want. You come up with with an argument that you can make about the poem, and then you write a paper explaining your argument. Like you write an essay. What is it? Persuasive paper.
Persuasive paper about it.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so you chose a poem by Keats.
Yes.
It looks like.
I have no idea how to introduce it.
Okay. Is that what you want to start with? Is trying to figure out how to introduce it? Or is there something else that is on your mind?
Well, I'm thinking, is this a legitimate question? Is it too cheesy to start with this quote? Because I reference this quote in the entire piece. And I don't want to keep referencing it.
Mm-hmm. I used to open with quotes, and I've learned that teachers don't normally like to have quotes to start with.
I see. I only picked that out because it was what the entire piece is about is this quote.
Right.
So I felt like
I totally get that.
I should put it somewhere easily accessible.
Yeah, we could keep it in the beginning, but I think if it's like the first sentence, it kind of acts like a drop quote, and it doesn't really have any context, so people don't normally read that well.
This is all I have from the beginning.
This little part here?
This is it.
Over time.
And that's my thesis.
Okay. Well, you have a thesis, and that's good.
Yes.
So, over time, various pieces of art have inspired more works to come. In John Keats' Ode to a Grecian urn, he explores the purpose of artwork. By the end of John Keats' Ode to the Grecian urn, he is coming to the conclusion that the truth of art lives on to inspire future works regardless of its context. Okay. The truth of art lives on to inspire future works. What do you mean by inspire future works? Like his poems?
Of art.
Oh, just in art in general?
That art inspires art, basically.
Regardless of its context. Okay. Okay, so do you want to work on your intro then, and to get to that point, or would you like to work on...
Sure, let's just start with that.
Okay. So you have that one sentence, so have inspired more works to come. Don't just want to explore the purpose of our work. Okay. So if you have... Do you have like 3 or 4 main points you're making in the paper that you can maybe refer to in the introduction?
So I have
or background information.
Structure, the structure of the poem. That's my first one.
Okay.
And then my second one is imagination, and because that's like a major thing, and that's what is it called? The meat of my argument.
How he expresses the imagination.
Because basically what it comes down to is in this portion, people argue that he's not saying that beauty is within artwork or in the truth of artwork, which is what he says. Beauty is truth, truth, beauty. That is all you know on earth and all you need to know. That's that's what I'm saying is the end all be all. And people are arguing that no, he's saying beauty is within the imagination because of how he writes about there's this urn there, and while it doesn't represent anything, I use my imagination to bring beauty and life to it. But I'm arguing that while that is true, he uses his imagination to bring beauty and light to it. Mm-hmm. He's not using that as to say that beauty is within the imagination, he's using that to say that anyone can see beauty within the artwork regardless of its given time. So like even though it's a Grecian urn that's old from, you know, however long ago, it still maintains its beauty, which is kind of the argument I make here.
Right. And so the original argument with the imagination doesn't support that?
Yes,
or are they not opposites?
The original argument with the imagination is saying that it stops at imagination. It doesn't continue on to involve others within the imagination. It's like really a broad concept.
I'm sorry.
It's really broad. So basically, like, it's like if I saw this picture.
Yes.
And went, oh, that's a lovely person. And everyone was like, I mean, because, like, you're viewing an artwork, right?
Right.
And you come up with this story, which is what he does. And I think what the people are arguing is that, like, he's coming up with this story for it, so it makes it, the story is what's beautiful, not the artwork.
The story is what's beautiful, not the artwork,
yeah.
Is what he's saying.
So, okay. Like, you know, this is a girl, and I see her as a young woman who has climbed a mountain and all that stuff. And because there's mountains in the background, and so, like, I use the context to, like, make my own story.
Right.
And then, so they're arguing that, like, the beauty is the story that you create in your imagination. I'm arguing that the beauty is within the artwork and the story is whatever you pull from it. So if I look at the artwork and see a young girl who has climbed a mountain and has made it to the top, like, that's what I see. But if someone else looks at it and goes like, oh, that's like, I see that as a college student ready to graduate, you know, like, the different stories, it's not about the story, it's about what the artwork can produce within other people, regardless of that story.
Which is different from the imagination?
I think so. I'm not sure. Because the more I talk about it, the more confused I get, which is why I'm struggling so much writing this paper.
Right. I think maybe a reason is that, like, the definition I think of when I hear imagination, which may be different from the way it's being used in this paper, is that, like, imagination differs from person to person. So, like, I imagine this. Oh, well, I imagine this. So, like, when you say, oh, well, people can take something away from the art in different ways, I think it still clings to that idea of, like,
right,
personalization, and that might be why it's confusing.
It's hard because I'm basing this on a discussion we had in class about this poem.
Right.
Where someone did say, like, oh, but, like, imagination, and, like, that's what he's saying beauty is. Beauty is the story that you feel from it. And I was like, well, no, it's not the story that you feel from it. It's, like, but it is. Oh, it's so confusing.
Is it? So I think if we, like, hash this idea out, it might help you a little bit.
Yeah.
So is it kind of like you don't necessarily disagree with that statement, but you think there's something added on to it that isn't being said?
Yes.
And maybe that thing is, like, the physicality of the art itself that extends through years. I
think what he's saying is that beauty and art are eternal. That's what I think he's saying by this.
Write that down.
Okay.
Right now, before you forget it. Beauty and art are eternal.
All caps, please no.
All caps, bolded, underlined, italicized. There it is.
Or the beauty within art is eternal.
The beauty within art is eternal. Okay, that's good. Okay. And the stories are not necessarily eternal. Like,
yes, because the stories change.
The story behind the Grecian urn was originally this.
And I think it comes from, like, the history of, like, where the Grecian urn came from and, like, how, like, it was stolen from the place where it was stolen from Greece and brought to London. And so, like, it was taken from its context.
Okay.
So, like, that's where I kind of got that idea that that's what he's trying to argue, because the urn that he was looking at was taken from its context, so I think he has a similar...
Got it. So the original story of it is lost. Or the artist's story of the art. Like, the artist... Okay, yeah. So maybe if you attach that it's the artist's or, like, the original to it, that will help clarify the difference.
So what if this became my thesis? The beauty within art is eternal even when the original purpose is lost.
Okay.
Purpose and story.
And story is lost. Okay. And then, so this was the other one. By the end of John Keats' Ode to the Grecian Urn, he is coming to the conclusion that the truth of art lives on to inspire future works, regardless of its context.
It's very similar.
It is very similar.
But I think this one's better worded.
I agree. Because I remember when I read this one originally, I mean, I have no context for it, so that doesn't help, but it was a little confusing to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's good. Come to the conclusion that the beauty within art is eternal even when the original purpose of the story is lost. Okay, that sounds good. I like that.
I've basically made a Franken thesis.
Excellent. Perfect.
Just combine the two.
Yes. Okay. Do you feel better about that a little bit?
Yes.
And the idea seems a little bit clearer?
Yes.
Maybe.
I still don't know what the counter argument is now.
Right. Okay. So this was the first